There we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Stamola Live. I am here with Frances Gilbert, who is editor at Doubleday Random House and the author of her own picture book, Go Girls Go, and Dorothia Rohner, who is the author-illustrator of her picture book, A Wish for Twins. And I am Allison Remcheck, and I am Dorothia's agent at Stamola Literary Studio, and we're here to talk today about Dorothia's picture book and how it came to be. So, Dorothea, would you like to start by reading a little bit of your book?
I would, and I first want to thank Stamola Live and Frances and Allison for being here and hosting this. So, yes, I would love to read it, and I'll just read a certain percentage of it. And I'll have to go to the library or the bookstore to see the rest of it.
Hey, do you like to start?
So, okay, so I'm sharing my screen. Do you need to put the screen in?
Are you ready to share your screen?
Share. Okay, so yeah, I need to share my screen here. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
No, we cannot.
I'm sorry?
We cannot see it. Can you try again?
Sure. Okay, it worked before. Oh, I need to say allow. Now, are you seeing my screen? And now I'm gonna
All right.
play it. Sorry,
There
there was a button. There you go. And you can see it now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So this is called A Wish for Twins, The Tale of Our Two Miracles. And on the end pages, we left room for the twins' names and the birthday that they would be born on. A Wish for Twins, The Tale of Our Two Miracles. And this is dedicated to my grandbabies, Grace and Mila, who sparkle in our hearts. You once twinkled in the stars, crisscrossed the cosmos before and beyond. You sailed through stardust, twirled across time. For light years you traveled, star-hopped, alone, until one magic moment, destiny dawned. You landed in ship, swung from the stars, forever together, two kindred souls. So that's the point that we're going to read to. And unless I guess that's the point that we're reading to. So that's the first part of the book. And does Frances or Allison, do you want to add anything about just the book so far? Or?
Well, I think what would be interesting, Dorothy, is for you to talk about the origins of this origin story, so that people who are with us today can get a sense of your personal connection to this book.
Oh, okay. So I've got that in the presentation. So I'm going to close the screen and then we'll start that. So.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Let me read this. Now, share. Takes a little longer to do all this. Okay. Oops. We'll start in a second here. Okay, so I thought every story has a book, and so I entitled this one The Story of a Book. And let's see here. Every book has a beginning. This is a sketch that I drew while I waited in the hospital for my grandbabies to be born. And it was just a little sketch, and I posted it on Instagram. My cover agent, Allison, saw the sketch, and asked me this question: does this sketch have a story? Had she never asked me this question, I would never have thought to write this book. And I am so grateful that she did. As I brainstormed the idea of the moon delivering the babies to Earth, I wanted it to not only be an ode to my grandchildren, my little baby girls, but also to resonate a universal message to all families of twins, one that would encompass the magnitude of emotions that families experience while waiting for their two miracles. So once I got to work, I came up with a few drafts, and I would go to my critique groups, my writing friends, and when I felt that I had it in good enough position, like the revision was as far as I could take it, that's when I showed it to Allison. And she went through it line by line with me, and we found the things that needed to be tweaked, and she gave her input. And then we did a few more, or I did a few more revisions, and then when we both thought it was ready, this was the submission. The draft on the left was the one that we submitted. So maybe Allison, if you want to talk about this part of the process.
Yeah, so I was kind of going back to your initial idea. I was so struck by the picture that you made for your grandbabies and the idea of these tiny little twins and the celestial imagery. And I just knew that there was a story here that was really going to resonate with people because there was just such a sweetness in the image. And when you came back with the story, I think that it actually took us a couple tries to even find the rhythm of the iteration that the book looks like now, and to kind of center on what this story would look like and what actually is the plot. I remember that at first there were kind of a lot of affirmative images and words of emotion and beautiful, beautiful thoughts about the twins. And it was lovely, but it was finding a way to craft all of this sentiment into a story that really still had a storyline where we had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and some character development, even with these yeah, I want to say like space twins, but that's not quite. That's not quite. And their journey from the heavens to the earth. And once we went back and forth, we did that, and we did find the arc in the story. And when we began to go back through, it became, how does this flow? How do these words work together? What is the best way to say this sentiment in as few words as possible? And how do we keep the cadence and the rhythm? And those were the sorts of things that we were thinking about as we went forward and we cleaned it up. But I think that for both Dorothea and for me, Dorothea being grandmother is obviously a mother, and I'm a mother too, and I don't have twins. But what kind of got me here was just how sweet and sentimental it was, and how perfectly Dorothea was able to capture that feeling that you get when you hold your baby or your babies for the first time. And when we made it through the end of the book, and I knew that we had that, to be honest with you, like, I could not read this book without crying for the longest time. And everyone I know who has read it has told me that they basically just sobbed. And it really gets to people, because puts you right in that moment and shows you the love a parent has for their child. And when we made it through to the end, I knew that it was there because we weren't distracted by the little errors in the manuscript or wondering how did this happen, or oh, that part fell flat. When you left this book, you left really feeling satisfied that what was in these pages was going to resonate with parents and resonate with an editor. And that's when we decided that we were ready to submit the book.
So yes, so then that's once Frances acquired the book, then she did the same thing, which, in case you haven't noticed, it takes a lot of people to make a book, a lot of people with different knowledge bases. And she found a lot of things that both Allison and I didn't see. And she you can see where all of the red text is, where a lot of the changes were made. And you can see it's still called Forever Twins at this point. And she actually repaginated everything. And I think maybe took out, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 spreads. So Frances, if you want to talk now about this part.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll start by saying that I loved hearing the backstory, which I actually didn't know until now, of how you and Allison worked together on this before it went out on submission. This is something that editors always appreciate. Sometimes we get submissions from agents that have not been worked on quite as carefully as this has been, and it shows. And it's that work ahead of submission that can really make a huge difference. And so when I got this on submission from Allison, I was instantly captured by the topic. I don't happen to have a twins book on my list, and I know there are a few out there, but I know there are not a lot. So, the sort of marketing side of my head is looking at that, like, what is the hook? Like, how is this different from other baby books on the market, of which there are very many? And so that's intriguing to me. And then I read about your backstory and how you had written this around the time of the birth of your grandchildren, which was a nice personal connection to the story. And then ultimately, I absolutely loved your writing and your artwork. It's so hard to do both, and you're very rare in that field. And your writing is so tight. I mean, you talk about me editing, but as I'm looking at this screen here, I have not edited very much of this at all. It's a very small portion that you and I worked on over a very brief amount of time. Just this perfect circular story that starts off with them twinkling in the stars and ends with them sparkling in our hearts. I mean, how perfect, and also not contrived. Sometimes you read stories that kind of end in some way where it's trying to sort of bring it back, but you don't really stick the landing, and this just was so organically beautiful. I thought the idea of having the twins seem almost like these sort of miracle babies was so smart because, as we know, a lot of twins are born as a result of IVF, and that is obviously to families who have been trying very hard to have children, and how the idea of them being, miracles from heaven are really, it's, from what I understand, very, very true to that experience. So I thought that was a really smart and emotional way into this story. Your art was absolutely unique. I don't think I've ever seen anyone who illustrates like you do, and I think your style really matched the sort of magic of this story perfectly. I mean, it glows, right? It is celestial, and so the whole package was just perfect. And so that's why I acquired it. I knew very quickly that I wanted to, and like I said, I think, the editing is very light. I don't remember specifically the decisions I made around the pagination, but with you being an illustrator, I would have certainly consulted you and said, like, does this new pagination work with your vision for the art? Can we adjust things in this way? And I would have paginated basically for pacing, just to make sure that we've got something new happening on every spread, and that we're sort of paying attention to the way the page turns, and we're making good use of that dramatic effect. But this was a very light edit for me. I think the most of the work you did, frankly, was with our art director, Liz Tardif, in terms of the sort of more of the heavy lifting, because from an editor's point of view, you pretty much delivered me something pretty perfect. So.
Yeah. Well, I do remember the tickle time. I think it just kept. I just wanted to keep putting more and more heart into it. So I think that lullabies, giggles, and kisses, that to me was the biggest heart change with it. Voices as hum, where they really started imagining their family on Earth. So and you prompted that. That was something that I had thought about. So.
And I think that was such a really that is a really fun detail in your book, that it shows them sort of playing and frolicking just like little kids do. And so I think that children can also make a really strong connection to the characters in this book.
Okay. All right. So I will go on to the next step. So while I was working on the manuscript, I was also sketching, making illustrations. The first sketches are that upper left, and I made them have too much of human features. So I realized I didn't want them to look human, because then I just wanted them to look like cute, but not, they needed to be different than human. So I decided to really generalize their features. And I decided not to give them mouths, because I thought, that would be one thing that when they come to the earth and they're babies, then they could smile. So that's just a subtle thing that I decided to do. And so these are the rough dummies that in the middle there. And I'd like to work on, you can see I just lay out, I like to work in pencil first on paper, and then I'll scan it, and then I'll do the dummies. But you can see how I just work up kind of small on, 3 per page as I go on. So I don't know if there's anything you guys have comments on this. No?
No comments on this, but I do just love the way that you use light in your work, and the way that I don't even know how to say it, the way that you just capture that in your painting on the page is incredible.
Oh, thank you, Allison. Okay, so I really decided I needed to start working on what everything was going to look like in the final art. So after the rough dummy was complete, I needed to choose a medium. And the big question was, I love working traditionally, but as we all know, it takes a lot more time. And when Allison told me I had 5 months to do it, it became very clear that I would need to be doing it digitally. And so I had been working with that lower left cold wax painting and pigments. It's a painting about this big, and I'm layering light. So I really love the traditional painting looked. And actually that's the art that we sent at the final submission, or the submission. And so I needed to figure out a way to emulate that on Procreate. So I decided to use Procreate. And so the right side shows some of my samples of what I started with, just playing with. So this is the actual dummy book that I submitted that we submitted to Frances. And then these are all of the changes that were made. You can see it's about over half of the spreads were changed. So yeah, most of it was in the artwork that the changes were made. And one thing I do remember that I couldn't see happening was not showing humans, that they were imagining humans. And so I tried it the way Frances did, and it just tightened it up so much better. So you only have people at the end of the story.
I made you get rid of a lot of the humans, didn't I?
Yeah. And then that was, and it's how we get in our mind how we think it's got to be, and then someone else gives their opinion. And I think my advice is to always just try it and then work it through, because it made it so much better.
I think
So,
I recall feeling that the humans were just kind of making it a little bit too domestic and sort of earthbound, and you were really kind of losing the magic, and that the buildup really had to be to that family that you meet at the end rather than sort of like teasing it. So you
yeah.
found other ways to sort of indicate pieces of Earth, like, you know, showing them like reading books and frolicking and having fun, but you didn't show the actual humans until the last 2 pages.
Yeah, well, it made it better. What you asked for made it better, I think. So, and so then as we got going more, this was more changes made. You can see there's just some rough things that were not completely figured out. And it's nice with Adobe Acrobat. Liz and Francis could just put, they would talk and they would just put me done. And then Liz could just put the comments in there and I could just keep going. So this is an almost finished dummy book. And if you guys have anything to add at these points, you can do that. Let's see. So this shows the completed dummy book. And I was really happy. And these little guys were starting to come to life. And they were happy with the art changes and the way the dummy book was. So I was able to start on the final art. So at this point, the first thing I did was to enlarge each of the spreads on the computer or on the iPad, and then I printed them out. And this is an extra step that I take because I can't imagine what the book is going to look like if I'm only looking at a small screen. So the trim size is 10 by 10. So I wanted to see what everything looked like full size. And what I do is I out and then I vellum. And really great paper because you keep your tracing over it and it doesn't get all gnarly and I can keep changing it around. So that was the first steps to find the final drawings, to get the final drawings. So I just went through each spread one by one. And here's a little, just kind of a little video that shows you I've got the vellum over the tracing, and you can see I can shift the positions of the wings, and it's really fun to draw on it. And so I started drawing and shading, and then
Dorothea, it looks like it's not coming up.
I realized it really was a waste of time and not necessary, even though it was fun. Allison, is it coming now?
No, it's not. It's black. Oh, there we are.
Let me go back. So the video's not showing up, huh?
Correct.
That's okay. We can talk about what your process was.
Oh, shoot. If the videos don't show up, then okay, shoot. Okay, so
Try to.
I'll have to post it later then. You can't see the videos.
So
Allison,
we can
the videos aren't showing up still.
This right now. I'm not sure if it maybe took a moment to catch up. If there's a video supposed to be playing right now, it just looks like a still image. Okay.
Okay, then I have to post videos later because I have a lot of painting processes. So once all of the drawings were finished, I laid them all out on my big table, and then I went through them one by one to make sure that they had all of the details and they were consistent. And then I showed these. This was the point where I would show all of these to, I would scan them and then I would show them to Elizabeth and Francis. So and if you guys want to add anything, feel free. Once all the drawings were approved, I started final art, the color art. And this is a very brief overview of working in Procreate. The first thing I did was, instead of scanning it, the iPad cameras are so nice. I just put them in a well-lit area, and I took photos of high-res photos of each of them, and then organized them into folders. And then throughout this process, I had been collecting all kinds of images of galaxies and nebulas, so I could use the color palettes. And in Procreate, you can actually take the image in and then create a palette. So that's where I used from first did the different pages, the different color palettes. And then I have been using Procreate for a while, but I've never done a big project like this. So I spent a lot of time watching videos on how to really do a workflow with to make the characters consistent and masking, and so that was a lot. And so I think when I started it, I felt confident that yeah, this was the way to go. And another part of the process was learning how to create custom brushes. And I also bought brushes online because I didn't want to just use basic brushes. I needed like the little stars. I wanted the galaxies to look real, but also whimsical. So I created those little stars and those little flowers. I don't know if you can see these little flowers here, and the little spirals. And so you can bring those brushes into. I just made a whole brush library called Forever Twins, which at this point it was still called that. And then I could just know right where to go for my brushes. So, and oh yeah, these are a couple of places where I get my really nice brushes online. So this is another video. So I don't know if you can see this or not. Are you?
No, I'm afraid it might have something to do with the internet connection or something like that.
For my internet connection?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to be right back. I'm really sorry.
Well, since she just left, we'll be opening up for questions in just a few minutes. So if you have any, you can feel free to put them in the chat and we'll ask soon. Are you on?
Sorry,
mute?
Allison. I was going to say, Allison, do you want to talk about like what kind of qualities you look for in a work when you're deciding to take something on and deciding to represent someone? Like, I know that's a really big question, but are there certain sort of details that really can kind of grab you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And especially when it comes to looking at art, I feel like that I am very, very picky about. And I am looking for someone, when I see their art, I know that you're going to look at this art and say, Dorothea Rohner did this, not, oh, I wonder if it's this person or that person. It's something with a style really distinct and eye-catching. And I tend to have kind of classic taste, but I'm still looking for something that has a bit of an edge to it. So it seems like it's all its own. And for stories, since this is probably a picture book audience right now that we have, yeah, I'm looking for the concept first, a concept that I've never seen before, or turning something typical on its head, and really child-centric, like taking those small, finite childhood experiences and turning them into something bigger that have a larger message about them. And what are you looking for, Frances?
Well, I was just saying, like, we obviously have a lot of projects in our future, Allison, because
Mhm.
you've just basically described my entire philosophy with regard to my Doubleday imprint. Art-wise, I too feel like I enjoy traditional art, but I also, I also look for something that just has like a little something extra, right? Like a little something that just kind of elevates it and makes it really intriguing. And I'm also always thinking about who the reader is when I'm acquiring. I always acquire books for kids. I don't acquire books that that grown-ups are going to like, but kids won't necessarily appreciate. I always keep the kid in mind, and want to make sure that it's a story that really connects with them. But as you said, you're also looking for that unique way in, right? And that kind of writing the same story that everyone else is writing is not going to get you there. So like having that really unique take, where as an editor, and I'm sure as an agent, your first response is, how has this not already been done? Like, I frequently find myself like diving onto Amazon and searching for it and going, oh my God, it's a new idea. Like, it's ultimately what we're all looking for, right? Is a new idea.
Yeah, definitely. And with Dorothea, who I'm not sure what happened, I think she cut out. I'm just gonna text her and see if she's okay, if her connection dropped. I was so shocked that there were really no books about twins and for twins. And there's a few books out there about what it's like to be a twin or what to do about your new twin siblings, but there isn't this kind of an on the night you were born style story that is specifically for celebrating how very special twins are. And like you said about the miracle baby aspect to it, she's having issues. She's trying to get back in. I feel like that has become so important to people, and a lot of parents really relate to this idea of the twins. I had one twin mother tell me who had IVF twins that it took something and made it feel more warm and personable.
That's a really good point, because it must at a certain point feel very clinical and demoralizing. And this idea of sort of like taking that experience back and showing the sort of the joy and the anticipation and kind of the beauty of this is something that Dorothy has achieved, which is really smart.
Yes, here she is. She's back. You want to try sharing your?
I'm going to try. Yeah, I don't know what this worked fine last time with the videos. Let's try it again, and I'll see if they don't work. I'm just going to click through the videos and I'll figure out some way to share them another way. So,
and I think that we're running into our final 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Want to get through the presentation to have a few questions.
Got it. Okay, I'll hurry. It always goes so great when you practice.
It's technology, it does what it wants to do sometimes.
Okay. Can you see?
There you are.
Okay, so this was the custom brushes. I'll go quickly here. So this is an animation. Can you see it?
No.
I think we should just lose the animation and just go straight to the slides.
So this would show another. These were just showing how I work with the animations. So if you can't see I'd post somewhere else. I'll find somewhere to share these. And then here's another. Can you see the still image? Is there a still image you can see?
We are having major technical difficulty, I think. It's just black again. Is it video? Could you keep going?
Yeah, these are just showing painting animations. So I'm going to
I will put your Dorothea's Twitter and Instagram are the same. So I'm just going to put that into the chat right now. So maybe you could post those on your Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, can you see this image, the title? Okay, so at this point, really late in the process, the title was still Forever Twins. And then Frances, you can talk about this part.
Yeah, this was my boss, Mallory Lower, who's our publisher, who's just so smart. She's just really one of the best there is in the business. And she's basically never wrong, right? She just has such incredible instincts. And so she came to me at a certain point in the process and said, I don't know about this title. She said, it sounds like a young adult novel about like creepy twins. And she said, it sounds like something that Delacorte would publish.
Oh boy.
No, she meant that with a lot of love. I mean, Delacorte does young adult as great as anybody in the
Yeah,
industry, right?
definitely.
They're so good at it. But as soon as she mentioned like young adult and kind of creepy twins, I like, couldn't get out of my head. And I was like, okay, well, we obviously have to we have to change this. And we went through it. We had a big long list of a variety of different sort of adjectives and approaches. And I don't remember whose this one was, but that as soon as it came up, that felt like, oh, that's the right one, because it kind of expands on the story a little bit, gives a sense of like the hoping, and I think that's also when we added the subtitle, right? Which again, I love a subtitle. I'll use a subtitle on almost anything, because it just gives you an extra chance to give that hook to the customer, right? Especially if the customer is online and doesn't necessarily have the ability just to grab the book and pick it up. And that's something that, of course, we have to increasingly think about. So how are we going to be able to convey this very, very quickly and very, very obviously as to what this is? And I think we nailed it.
Yeah, I think so too. And
Exactly.
it was so right about forever twins, forever zombie twins.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I got to the last spread, I realized that because it was such a personal story, that I really wanted to have the characters resemble my family instead of the ones that I had originally drawn. And I brought this up to Frances and Liz, and they both agreed. And so I think I had 3 days then to redo the painting. So this is the final family in the
I
script.
love that you kept the chicken. I mean, if you had come to me and said, "I want to keep it just as is, but I want to get rid of that chicken," I would have put my foot down, because I love the randomness of like a family that doesn't have enough on its hands. They've got two brand new twins, and then there's just a chicken.
Yeah, yeah.
that, that is forever my favorite moment in the book.
And this is my little granddaughter Eva, and she's just dresses like a little fairy, and she's got mismatched socks. So I don't know. It was just fun to put that personal touch in things. So
I think you also had the right instinct, Dorothea, in that it was something that you hadn't mentioned to Liz or I, and you felt strongly about it, and you told us. And that's something that I would certainly urge everybody who's listening to do. That if you are going through this process with your editor or your art director, and there's something you feel strongly about, you should make that known, right? It's your book ultimately. I mean, I would have fought you to the death over that chicken, but ultimately it is your book, and if you want to make some changes, like it's all yours, right? So it's good that you own that.
it was really ended with it was due that Monday, I think, and it was Friday night, and I said, it's done, the art's done, but it just doesn't feel right. And I think you were on vacation and you got back to me Saturday and said, go ahead. And I just really appreciated that you, that I could keep it as a personal, but still have it resonate with other families. So here are just a few spreads. This is the one where I took all the people out and showed them doing human things without humans. And this is one of my favorite spreads where they skate the rings around Saturn.
This is a masterpiece. This,
yeah.
I mean, this should be a poster that every nursery has framed. It's that Saturn page is incredible.
Thank you. So with that said, this is the last thing I want to tell you. I hid words in this book, and you can win prints, nursery prints. So these are 3 prints that you could win if you find the name of my race, which are hidden on that star swing page. And then after, in the rest of the book, are 2 words, sparkle, sparkle. So if you get the words, you can go to my website and enter the answers, and then I'll do a random drawing on Mila and Grace's birthday. And I'm also giving away these hand felted star babies. Those ones aren't complete yet, so that they can have in the nursery. So that is all. And I'm really sorry that those animations didn't work, but I'll figure out some way to
So That was really lovely, Dorothea, and you were so talented with your sewing and making the little dolls.
Okay, these are so
They're
fun.
so adorable.
I
They're
don't
so
know. They're just fun to make, and I thought it would be a fun to go away. So,
I don't even know how you come up with your ideas to do things sometimes. But we just have a couple minutes left, but I'm going to open it up to a few questions. I'll write it in the chat as well. Does anyone have questions? We do have one question already from Pamela Ross, who says, besides the gorgeous art, is the handwritten text copy yours as well?
No. That was Liz's font choice that she chose that, which made it really, I think it paired really nicely with the illustrations. So.
And we've got a few comments. The presentation and book are gorgeous. Don't worry about the technical difficulties. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
And Liz loves the spread with the twins and Saturn. Pamela also agrees that Forever Twins has a YA Gothic flavor. What were we thinking, Dorothea? We're submitting it like that. I'm surprised we got anyone's attention now. And other than that, are there any more questions for Dorothea or for Francis or myself? I know that sometimes there's a lag on this, so I'm afraid of cutting out too soon. Oh, that was a very natural font choice.
Yeah, it's really nice. So.
Dorothea, are you working on anything new?
I am. Yes, I am. I'm working on one. I don't know if I can say it. Well, it doesn't really have a
title. You have chickens.
She's got a couple in her back that she's ready to submit, and then I've got a couple of new ones I've got to that. I work on a lot of different ones, so I get them to a certain phase, and then I will start the finals. So I've got two that are pretty final that I can start getting it ready for submission.
Yeah, and one of the things that Dorothea does best is fairies. And when I first met her, I met Dorothea like 9 years ago now, maybe, at an SCBWI conference were we in Iowa?
It was in Iowa.
We were in Iowa. And she had all of these lovely paintings of fairies, and you had us over to your house, and I got to see in your studio. And I was thinking about your art, and I was pregnant with my daughter at the time, and she sent me the most lovely painting of a fairy that's still in her room. And now here we are. There was another agent in the meantime, and when I realized you had representation, I thought, oh, maybe one day she'll come to me.
It worked out. So
it did.
So.
There was a question about the agenting process. How long from taking your book, Dorothea, to Allison until publication?
Actually, this isn't the first thing that I worked on. I had other stories that are still, two of them are ready, and some of them are. So this was probably, I had quite a few stories, and this one wasn't even written. It was just from the sketch. So it would have been July. It's been 3 years. So starting that sketch, getting the story done, submission, and now the publication.
Right. Dorothea wasn't really, to my knowledge, actively working on the manuscript that whole time. I think you were kind of waiting for your idea to percolate for a lot of it. In general, I think the question what they're really asking is, how long does it take for your book to be published after submission? Usually it takes about 2 years for a picture book to be published. Sometimes it takes 1 year, and sometimes you might get bumped on a 3 years ahead, which isn't ideal, but happens.
I think I acquired this in like around January of last year of 2021. So it's taken about 18 months. And that's slightly shorter because you delivered, you know, final art, not final art, but you delivered art. Whereas if I just acquired your text, it would have been longer because of course I would have had to have found an illustrator to complete the book. So yeah, 18 months at a minimum, really.
Yeah.
It was fast. It was very fast to me. So.
Yeah, and Dorothea has very good, complete dummies and really has a plan when she goes into a project. And not everybody works the same way. Some people take a rougher approach. But it really helped Dorothea to be able to move more quickly. Yes, it is a labor of love.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Now, I think we have now gone a couple minutes over. So if there are any more last questions, or is there anything else you would like to say before we leave, Frances?
No, I mean, I think Dorothea has explained really beautifully her process and the road towards this gorgeous book. I just hope everybody listening will think about the twins in their lives, friends, family, maybe your own family, and share this book with them. I think they'll really love it.
Yeah, I think so too. And there are so many twins. And Dorothea, do you have anything before we leave?
Well, I just want to thank everybody for being here. It's there's so much always going on, and I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out and hearing about our book. And yes, if you do know twins, let them know about the free stuff they could win too for their babies. So,
thank you everyone for coming. And are you going to tweet your contest, Dorothea?
Yes, if you follow at Dorothea R, and then I just put a hashtag for twins. And when you submit the website, I'll get your name, and if you're right, then I'll put you in drawing. So then then you'll put your email in, and I'll either tell you through email, and then I'll announce the winners on Twitter and on Instagram. So on July 27th. So.
Wonderful. And this will stay on Stamola Live. So like our video, share it, post a comment, come back, and we will see you all next time. Thank you so much for coming, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Frances. Thank you, Allison.
Bye.
Bye.